get down to business. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money moves.
You can't see me, my time is now.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness Times Business Podcast, the show created to provide you with the practical and strategic advice to help you level up in fitness, business, your career, your relationships, and your life. My name is Joseph Medsell. I am your host. Guys, I've got an incredibly valuable episode for you today. My top 5 productivity hacks, and I'm super excited to talk to you guys about these 5 tips, these 5 hacks that I have personally found over the years have really helped me continue to move the needle forward and helped me continue to produce valuable outputs instead of just being busy for the sake of being busy and kind of spinning my wheels and crossing things off, ticking boxes for the sake of doing so. But before I get into these top 5 productivity hacks, you guys know that we don't run ads on this show. We never have, we never will. So far as I'm the host, it's never going to happen. But every now and again, I do have something that I want to tell you guys about because I think that it can bring you a lot of value. That's what this show is about. So if I come across something that I think is worthy of your attention, I'm going to tell you about it. And this is one of those times. MJ Challenge, the Massive Joe's Challenge Season 6. Registration is open right now. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Massive Joe's Challenge, with the MJ Challenge, it's a 10-week transformation challenge. It's open to men and women. And there's 2 primary goals. So you can do it to build muscle over the 10 weeks, or you can do it to burn fat over the 10 weeks. As part of the challenge, you know, it's something that we have developed. This is season 6. We've been running it. This is our 4th year running it. We didn't have a season when the pandemic had us in its drawer, shall I say, in 2020. But this is our 4th year, 6th season running it. And you know, we've developed a transformation challenge that I think is one of the best in the world. And as part of it, you get a customized diet plan, a customized meal plan that allows you to create your own meals at the same time as actually learning about macronutrients and caloric density and really being educated on, you know, what food does. You get a personalized training program, cardio program, supplementation plan, and motivation guide. And you also then get a 5-week update at the halfway point in the challenge. Plus, you get access to an exclusive Facebook group with a whole bunch of members of Team Massive Joe's in there to help you along the way, and obviously everyone else within that season of the challenge as well, which is just an amazing community season after season. And you go in the draw to win over $10,000 in cash and prizes at the end as a little cherry on top. It's only $100, so it's $100 one-off payment for the 10 weeks. So it's literally $10 per week. It's $99.95 actually. So it's less than $10 per week. And as part of that, you get everything I just told you guys about. Plus you get an exclusive Massive Joe's Challenge t-shirt, some merchandise, some samples, and some bits and pieces as well. So for those of you who are looking for a little bit of guidance to help you transform physically and mentally at the same time, for those of you who are looking for a little bit of accountability, perhaps you know how to build muscle, you know how to burn fat, you just need the accountability there. For those of you who want to do it to try and win the challenge, you know, it's a great opportunity. Registration is open right now. It closes at midnight at the end of August. On the last Sunday in August, registration closes, and we unfortunately can't accept late registration. So if you guys are interested, head to MassiveJoesChallenge.com. Super easy to remember. MassiveJoesChallenge.com. Registrations are open now, and go ahead and register, because I think that a lot of you who listen to this podcast is about providing you with the practical and strategic advice to help you level up. The Massive Joe's Challenge is all about doing that when it comes to fitness, when it comes to your mindset, when it comes to your physical being as well. So I think you guys can get a lot of value out of it. My top 5 productivity hacks. So I've done an episode of this show in the past, guys. The episode was called I Don't Have Time. And within that episode, I coined the saying, there's no points for busy. You don't get points for being busy. Everybody is busy. Nobody cares. What you do get points for is productivity. What you do get points for is using your busyness to produce valuable outcomes, to produce valuable outputs. That's what counts. That's what you get points for. That's what people recognize. That's what you earn pats on the back for. It's all about productivity. No points for busy, all points for being productive, all points for valuable outputs. And over my years in both fitness and business, which is, in both realms really, is over 15 years in both, in my competitive pursuits, as a men's physique athlete in bodybuilding, in my business pursuits with Massive Joe's, with TMJ Apparel, with the IFBB Pro League, with the mentoring that I do. I have developed some pretty cool systems to make sure that I'm being as productive as possible, to make sure that my busyness is being used to produce valuable outcomes. And I want to share those with you guys because I think that this balance of busyness and productive is something that we all struggle with, right? Because we're all busy, we're all trying to get shit done, and sometimes it just feels like there's so many inputs coming in. There's so many things to do. There's so many things that need to be done that you can very quickly find yourself in this cycle of just spinning your wheels and actually just fucking not getting anything done, not achieving anything, which for those of us who have high achievement values, which I know is most of you guys, that's why you tune into this show. It can be quite abrasive to our character. It can be quite abrasive to our personality. It can cause us stress. It can cause us anxiety. It can cause us to feel less than. It can affect our self-worth. And so I think that these top 5 productivity hacks or productivity techniques are going to help you guys out a lot. They definitely have helped me over my 15 plus years in both fitness and business. So my first one is remove distractions. What this is about, guys, is this is about protecting your focus. If you're trying to produce valuable outcomes, if you're trying to produce valuable outputs, you need to be focused on whatever it is you're trying to produce. And the quickest way to derail your focus is to become distracted. So a couple of things that I have implemented that have worked really well for me to remove distractions. The first one is removing the ability of things to come in and distract you. Removing the ability of external outputs of information, of people, of things that are outside of your control coming in and distracting you. So one of my biggest tips here, guys, is to turn your notifications off. On your phone, turn your social media notifications off. Turn your messages off. My SMS, I don't even see my SMSs unless I go into my SMS and see who's messaged me at a time where I dedicate to go and have a look at my SMSs. I'm going to go here as well. Phone calls. Turn your notifications off for phone calls, guys. This is something I've done as well. It's a distraction when my phone rings and I'm trying to focus on some shit and somebody calls me and pulls my focus away from what I'm trying to get done to whatever it is they want to talk to me about. Turn your notifications off when it comes to phone calls as well. You can return people's calls, set up a message bank, let them leave a message, and then dedicate some time during the day to go and return your phone calls, return your SMSs, get back to your social media comments and DMs and tags and all that bullshit. Turn your notifications off. Don't let them distract you. And it's your decision. You either decide to have the notifications on and let this external shit come in and distract you, or you decide enough is enough. I'm turning that shit off. I'll deal with it when I put aside the time to consciously deal with it, and that can be my focus. Then we've got the distraction that comes from within. And what I'm talking about here, guys, I'm talking about your thoughts. And to some degree, I think all of us struggle with our own thoughts sabotaging our focus. We've all been through periods in our life, often when we're going through some heavy shit, some traumatic shit, some painful shit, some difficult periods in our lives where our own thoughts wander during the day. You know, they're thinking about that thing we've got to do, that person we've got to speak to, that uncomfortable situation we've got to confront, and our mind just kind of wanders. And what we effectively end up doing is we almost sabotage our own focus internally. It's not something external that's coming in like phone calls or notifications or any of that shit. It's actually internal. And unlike notifications, we can't turn it off, right? You can't turn your thoughts off. They're there. They're going to come flooding in. Actually, if you try and fight against them, they're going to fight back even harder. And it's a battle that you are almost guaranteed to lose. So what I do to try and not necessarily control, but allow myself to look at my thoughts and be an observer to my thoughts rather than get consciously involved in the thought is meditation. And I've spoken to you guys about my meditation practice in many different episodes of this show. One of the things that I do, one of my goals at the moment is I meditate at least 5 times a week for 20 minutes. That's one of my daily weekly non-negotiables must be done 5 times a week, 20 minutes meditation. And I find that meditation obviously enhances mindfulness, but it does 2 things when it comes to productivity. Firstly, is it allows you to get really good at focusing when you're focusing on a visualization or you're focusing on your breath or, whatever the particular meditation is wanting you to focus on. You get really good at dialing in that focus, which can help productivity. But then the other thing is it allows you to get really good at not getting involved in your thoughts, is just observing your thoughts as they come and then letting them go. And then as they come and then letting them go. So it allows you to refine your focus, and then it also allows you to deal with these distractions that are coming from internally through your own thoughts. So meditation practice is a big part of removing distractions. Top 5 productivity hack number 2. Be proactive, not reactive. Take control of your time. It's your time. We all have the same 24, guys. Ain't nobody got 25 hours in a day. Ain't nobody got 16 hours in a day. We've all got 24 hours every single day. We decide how we spend the time. We decide what we do with the 24. We decide whether we make the most of the 24 or whether we piss the 24 away. If you want to make the most of your 24, you got to be proactive, not reactive. 2 tips. The first and most important, and this is something that I've spoken to you guys on multiple occasions about before, do not consume media first thing in the morning when you wake up. No social media, no mass media, no scrolling through the fucking news, no any external input. You start your day like that, you're immediately signaling to your brain to be in reactive mode. You're immediately telling your body that you're going to react to inputs that are coming in instead of being the one that decides how you're going to spend your time, what you're going to do with it, how you're going to be proactive. It's such a big deal. It sounds so fluff and so cliche and so airy-fairy. I get it 100%, guys, until I started doing it and I noticed the fundamental shift that it had on my consciousness, on how I start my day, on how productive I am throughout the day, on how I'm able to make the most of my 24. I cannot stress this enough. At least if you want to put a time limit on it, fantastic. If you wake up at 5:30 every morning, no social media, no mass media, no external inputs for the first 30 minutes until 6 a.m. Fine. If you want to extend that to an hour, fine. Put a time limit on it. The important thing is if you find yourself waking up, the first thing you do when your alarm goes off, you look at your phone, you start scrolling through fucking Instagram, or you start scrolling through some bullshit news feed, or you start scrolling through whatever the fuck it is. That is the worst possible way to start your day when it comes to trying to be proactive and trying not to be reactive. So what do you do with that time? What do you do with that first 30 minutes? What do you do with that first hour to ensure you're proactive and not reactive? Take control of that time, guys. Use the time to review what you dreamt about the night before. Use the time to journal. Use the time to think about what you're grateful for. Use the time to read a book that's helping you progress forward with your self-development or your fitness or your business or whatever you're trying to be productive in. Use that time to be productive somehow. Use that time to be proactive and productive, not reactive. There's a lot of different things you can do with that first 30 minutes, that first hour in the day. And the worst thing you can do is be reactive as soon as you wake up in the morning. The second thing when it comes to being proactive, not reactive, is to actually plan your day out. It sounds so simple, but it's something that not a lot of people do. Yeah, sure, you might have, a meeting on at 1 o'clock, and then you've got to make a phone call at 2:30, and then you've got a family dinner at 6 p.m. But what happens in between all those times? What are you doing? How is your day broken down? What is your plan for the day? What are the outputs you're trying to achieve? What do you need to do to make sure you achieve those outputs? One of the things I do, guys, this might sound a little overwhelming, but I didn't go from 0 to 100. I didn't go straight here, but this is where I'm at right now, is I break my work days down into 30-minute blocks. So I know exactly what I'm doing for every 30-minute block from when I wake up just after 4 in the morning to when I go to bed just before 9 at night. I know exactly, down to a 30-minute block, what I'm doing, what I need to be focused on, what I'm proactively trying to get done with that 30-minute block of time. Obviously, that's quite extreme. You guys don't need to do to that extreme, to that level, but having a very well thought out plan of what your day actually looks like and allowing yourself to release tension from the task you just completed, set the intention for the next task, and be completely focused with no distractions on whatever that task may be. Top 5 productivity hack number 3, take massive action. So this ties into being proactive, not reactive, but it also allows you to seek clarity, or encourages you to seek clarity on what you actually need to be doing to produce the valuable outputs that you're trying to produce. It's the old saying in business, and it really applies to anything, but probably more traditionally used in business, working in the business, not working on the business. You could even use it in fitness, working in your fitness, not on your fitness. You can use it really in any aspect of life. It's working in, not working on. It's so easy with this busyness to just spin your wheels and just tick boxes off and just cross things off for the sake of feeling like you're accomplishing something. But unless you know what direction you're trying to head in, unless you know what progression actually looks like, unless you know what the massive actions that you need to take are, it's very easy to get into a situation where you're just ticking boxes and you're just spinning your wheels and you're not actually being productive at all. You're just busy. So my little tip here, guys, is I have something that I call my top 5. So I have a written diary, and in that diary I have each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And under each day I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have five things. And at the start of each day, I write what those 5 things are. Those are my top 5. Those are the 5 things that I need to get done today that are my massive actions that'll continue to push the needle forward, that'll continue to move me towards the outputs that I'm trying to achieve, that'll continue to make sure I'm being productive rather than just busy. So the trick here is to make sure that those top 5 things. And you can use 5, you can use 3, you can use 2, you can use 1. So long as it's more than 0, it's a step in the right direction. But the trick here, guys, is to make sure that those are not things that you're going to do anyway, not things that are operational, not things that are working in the business or in the fitness or in whatever it is you're trying to achieve valuable outcomes in, but working on the business or on your fitness or whatever it is you're trying to produce valuable outputs, things that you don't normally do in the operational day-to-day busyness of everything, that if you do get them done, they'll move that needle that little bit forward and make sure that you're progressing towards those valuable, productive outputs. And this is really making sure that you're doing 2 things. The first thing is understanding what those massive actions are, having clarity around what those massive actions are. The next thing is making sure that you're progressing towards them. And the last thing is making sure that you're moving in the right direction, not just running on the spot, not just spinning your wheels. So take massive action. Top 5 productivity hack number 4, focus on solutions, not problems. Solutions are within your control. Problems are not. Solving problems is productive. Complaining about problems is not. I have this saying in the Massive Joe's business with all of my employees, with my team here. I say, don't come to me with problems. Come to me with solutions for the problem. If you come to me and say, we got an issue, this is the issue, I'm going to expect you immediately to tell me what you think the solution is. Because solutions are productive. Identifying problems are not productive. There's a quote that I often refer to and often think about consciously from Roman emperor, a Stoic philosopher. His name's Marcus Aurelius. For those of you who may be familiar, if you're not, definitely look him up. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And what this really means in this context, guys, is coming up with solutions to problems can often enhance your productivity in ways that you cannot currently anticipate and cannot currently comprehend, because you haven't come up against the problem. You haven't come up against the obstacle and figured out how to go around it, over it, under it, or through it. And the only way that you can actually enhance your productivity is by confronting that obstacle and figuring out what to do. So when Marcus says the impediment to action, which is the obstacle, advances action, what stands in the way, the obstacle that stands in the way becomes the way, he's actually saying that one of the best ways you can improve your productivity is to identify problems and then think about the solutions to the problems. And really what this kind of boils down to here, guys, is another one of the concepts I've spoken to you about in previous episodes of the show is responsibility versus fault. I think from a mindset perspective, this is a little hack that I use, a little tip that I use. If I ever find myself trying to pin fault on somebody or something, I know that I'm in problem identification mode, which is busyness with no productivity, which is bad. There's no points for busy. So if I ever find myself in fault finding mode, I check myself and I immediately go, no, hold on a second. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's my responsibility to figure out what the fuck to do. And I know once I get to that mindset, I've flipped out of focusing on problems to focusing on solutions. I've flipped out of what is this impediment to figuring out how can I use this impediment to advance action, to advance productivity. So I encourage you guys to do the same. If you ever find yourself in any situation where you're trying to pin fault on somebody or something, flip the mindset and go, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's my responsibility to fix it. And you'll immediately start focusing on solutions, not problems. And you start focusing on productivity, not busyness. And then the fifth and final Top 5 productivity hack. I may have saved the best one to last on this, guys. Once you're in the flow of productivity, don't fuck with it. This is perhaps the best kept secret of high achievers. This is the best kept secret of people who are able to achieve productivity and outputs that make people's heads spin. Those of us who are able to achieve high levels of productivity on a consistent basis understand that momentum, flow, is the most important thing when it comes to being highly productive consistently over a long period of time. And what I'm talking about here, guys, is when you implement the first 4 things that we've spoken about here, your productivity is naturally going to go to new levels. It's going to go to new highs. If you guys are not doing these 4 things and you literally just implement what I've spoken to you guys about in the last 20 minutes of this show, your productivity is going to fucking skyrocket. This is about what happens at that point. Because for a lot of people, what happens is they start patting themselves on the back and they start celebrating their wins and they start thinking they're pretty fucking good because compared to their old productivity, their new productivity is pretty fucking good. But this is about not patting yourself on the back so hard that you fucking fall over. This is about understanding the nature of compounding wins on top of wins on top of wins on top of wins on top of wins to produce consistent, highly valuable outputs, to produce consistent productivity over time, because that's where the real wins come from. So this is about avoiding self-sabotage when you get into the flow and momentum of productivity. And a couple of tricks that I use here, guys. The first one is don't be afraid to say no. If you're in the flow of productivity, if you've got some good momentum with producing valuable outputs and something comes along and you know that if you say yes to that, it's going to interrupt that flow, it's going to interrupt that momentum, say no and don't apologize for it. Don't self-sabotage yourself. Don't be afraid to say, you know what? My momentum, my flow with my productivity is more important than whatever the fuck else this is that I'm being asked to do or commit to or whatever the situation may be. I'm going to say no to that because this is more important to me. And I'm not going to apologize for saying no. So don't be afraid to say no. And then the second side, and this really comes into discipline more than anything else, in a fundamental definition of the word, is say yes to things that you know you need to do to stay in productivity flow, to keep up productive momentum, especially when you don't feel like doing them. That's discipline in one sentence. Say yes to what you know you need to do, especially when you don't feel like doing it. I'm telling you guys, this 5th point is something that it probably took me the better part of 15 years in both fitness and business to understand how valuable this is and to make the mistakes of saying yes to things when I knew I should have said no and saying no to things when I knew I should have said yes and just had the discipline to go through. And being in situations where I have sabotaged my own momentum, my own flow, and realize how fucking difficult it is to get it back once it's gone. And getting to a point of understanding where I just protect that now. I protect that. When I'm in flow, when I have momentum, when it comes to producing productive outputs, I protect that like my fucking life depends on it because I understand how valuable it is. So that fifth productivity hack is possibly the most valuable piece of productivity information that I can give you guys. And that's a wrap. That's my top 5 productivity hacks. So we've been through a little bit of theory behind each of them. I've given you some practical advice, guys, on what I practically do now on a day-to-day basis, on a very strategic basis, to make sure that I'm ticking each of these top 5 productivity hacks off on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to help me level up my own productivity. So if you guys have enjoyed the show, if you've taken some valuable information, you know, the one thing I ask in return is that you share the show. The best way that you can share is, well, actually, there's a couple of ways. Person to person is always pretty cool. You know, when you just at a family dinner or a get together with some friends and the conversation comes up about content you've been consuming, movies you've watched, albums you've listened to, podcasts you're subscribed to, just drop the Fitness Times Business podcast in there with a little, you know, explanation as to why you like listening, why you find it valuable. And then the second way is to take a screenshot right now of whatever podcasting platform you're listening to, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, whatever it may be. Post that in your Instagram story, tag myself in it, at Joseph Mansell. I love seeing those guys, and I try and repost as many of them as I possibly can. Guys, you could have been anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with me. I appreciate that. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Fitness Times Business Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you enjoyed this episode and took some value from it, make sure you share it with your friends, your family, and your followers. And if you haven't yet, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating.